Oh, man. Look at this room filling up already. I love it. There's Drew. There's all kinds of people I know on here.
I know that guy. I know
Yeah.
him.
Oh,
Hey,
this is
everybody.
fantastic.
Hey, Drew.
Yeah, you guys know, if you've been on webinars with me before, you know how I like to start them. I always think it's really, we're going to be using the chat. We're going to unmute a little bit even today. Unheard of in a webinar that someone would actually unmute and speak up, but we're going to be doing all that kind of stuff today. Do me a favor, drop in your location into the chat. This is going to get all of us used to, using the chat in this way. Tell us where you're joining us from. Drop in your Amazon wish list, whatever it is that you would like to drop in there. Just let us know you're alive and you're doing well.
Can I put my Venmo in there?
yeah. But those fun things. We're gonna have a really good time. You guys know I'm a big fan of Logitech. And here's my talk track. I say this every time that we're working together, but I think that quality matters. And nothing drives me more crazy than to hear somebody say, well, that's good enough for education. It makes my skin crawl to think, and that is a common phrase where it's like, oh, it's good enough for what we're doing. If that's the approach that we're taking, we've got things out of order. We should be I saw a post on Twitter just recently that was talking about expectations, and I chimed in because I think expectations really matter. And when we can set the bar high for the quality that we are presenting to our students in terms of our instructional design and the way we're presenting lessons to them, that will be reflected in the student work. I can promise you. And the one thing that I love about the reason I brought that up about Logitech is because they just have such great quality stuff. This is not, it's just good stuff. I'm a big fan. And so hopefully we've got the chat warmed up. I see 12 of you have started commenting in there, but there's way more than just 12. There's a bunch of people in there. So get active in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from. And then Kate, I know you wanted to kind of start with a little bit of formalities. Can we do that?
I always
first?
get the super fun part of just doing the housekeeping. So for those of you who have been here, you kind of know the drill. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them over in the chat. We'll get to them either throughout the presentation, or I'll make sure that the presenters get them at the end. At the end, also, when we're in Q&A, I think we have a reasonable enough size group that we can just unmute yourselves and we can all just have a conversation here at the end. Another thing about the end is if you are here for coffee, which I'm sure a lot of us are, we need you to fill out that exit survey at the end. So be sure you stick around, fill that out. That's super helpful for us as we move forward and plan more of these events. So thanks for being here. Back to Josh.
Awesome. So Carolyn and I, my dear friend from Logitech, we're going to be co-presenting this. Carolyn, I'll let you get started. I know we're kind of tag teaming this a little bit, so I've got some slides in here and you've got some slides in here, but if you want to get us started, then I'll jump in where I fit in.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you, Josh, as normal. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Gluth. I'm head of education here at Logitech. It is my honor and privilege to be doing a webinar with Trafera and Josh. It is by far one of my favorite things to do is to talk about education, get feedback, understand a little bit more about, and we'll have a couple polls throughout to understand a little bit about what your priorities are so that we can help define and manage those as well. So we are going to be talking about overcoming learning loss with tech-supported strategies. I think this is overall a huge topic for almost everyone on this call. It is me as a parent, it is absolutely something that I want to take into consideration as I'm helping my children at home or doing any type of remote school work. But also 97% of teachers say they expect some type of learning loss among students, with half the teachers saying the loss likely equates to 3 months worth or more. This is really going to be a huge issue with a lot of different schools, and it's not unique to one or the other. It is just a broad spectrum, and what the results of COVID has really just affected from a student mindset, right? If you kind of look at it, it's not necessarily going to be one student or one grade in one level. It's always going to be like whatever that student specifically thrives at, other things are probably going to fall to the wayside. And how do we get them back to get caught up and understand that they can, keep moving forward and progressing at their grade level or what their suspected grade level is? I think this is a great slide. You want to go over that, Josh?
Yeah, I can kind of talk about this, and just there's a little bit of animation that'll build in a little bit of this as we go forward. So you might have to click through, but there's a gentleman named John Hattie that did a brilliant job quantifying this concept. And so if I just want to push up my nerd glasses right now and kind of geek out on this for a minute, because if you're like me, this is the kind of stuff that's motivating to you as this researcher. His name is John Hattie. You can do a Google search for effect size and learn a lot more about this. We don't have time to dive too far into it, but I do want to just break it down at its most basic elements for you. So you can imagine this number line spanning from -1 on the far left over to +2 on the far right. So hit that first advance. Maybe it.
Oh, it didn't.
Okay, it's not in there. No, that's fine. I can just do it without the animations.
Okay.
No, that's fine. So everything between -1 and 0, these are things that happen in schools that we would consider learning loss, like the summer slide. You guys know, if you've been teaching for more than 15 minutes, that you have to reteach a little bit when you bring kids back to school in the fall, because during that summer season, they've gotten out of that education mindset. And so now we have to go back and reteach some of those things. There are other things that can fall into that category too, not just situations, but also strategies. So imagine, like, I would say that COVID would probably go into this category where it is causing learning loss. Okay. Now between 0 and 0.4, that's where we're having growth, instructional growth or academic growth, but not quite enough to equate to 1 year's growth in 1 year's amount of time. Okay. So there's teaching strategies that go in here, other situations like parental involvement. These things can go into this category where, yes, we are seeing some growth. They are affecting positive change in education, but anything below that 0.4 mark is kind of like, that's the hinge pin. So as we move past that and we're over at 0.5, almost to 1, and then beyond that, past 1 over into, yes, in that area, these are things that we would do in education that are considered best practices. These are practices that are gaining more than 1 year's growth in 1 year's amount of time.
Perfect. How did you guys like my spotlight from mouse?
That is fun. Yeah.
Thank you. Another Logitech goodie.
You'll have to show that if we get time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because I don't see. Most people probably don't even know what you're doing. I know because I geek out over stuff like that. But you'll have to show them.
I will. Yeah. We'll take a little bit of time at the end, maybe.
Yeah.
So this is kind of just a quick recap of some of district priorities. So around 295 district administrators and 210 principals were surveyed in January of this year. And in that poll, they asked, hey, what are your priorities? What kind of support to address students' learning loss during COVID, if any, do you believe your district or school will need over the next year? And just select all of them. Don't prioritize, just select all the ones that you think are important. And a lot was in-person tutoring provided by either current or former teachers. Josh, have you heard the same type of mentality out in your field?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, these do look like the same priorities. I try to keep my ear to the ground, and these things that are popping up here, especially like any of the stuff that's above 30%, I'm hearing a lot of talk about these kind of things. And look at this one that sticks out to me is this idea of hybrid. It's 29% hybrid and in-person academics. These are huge priorities for schools, and people may think, well, we're past the stage. Well, I hope so too. I really hope so too. But I see that there are still kids that need to be quarantined for some amount of time. These are all still things that we're all talking about. And the idea of this being associated with COVID really can be put, it's not really about that anymore. This is about transitioning to making learning available anywhere at any time.
100%. And I think one of the things that you'll find currently with in-person tutoring and then also online tutoring for students provided by current or former teachers. So there's not always going to be a calculus teacher in your town. How would you get access or a resource to a tutor? A lot of those are going to be an online resource that you can absolutely have access to if you had the proper tools. When you're looking at the online tutoring or the individual instruction, as we call it, I often kind of go through this mentality of there's a lot of different ways to look at individual instruction or individual tutoring. One is going to be a one-to-one mentality, right? So you're going to have one student either in person or on premise or online, and then you're also going to have one teacher to be able to assist that student. There's also going to be one to many. Maybe there's a group of students that have that same type of just a lag. Maybe they're all at the same reading level, they're all experiencing the same, growth. They can all be kind of looped to the one to many. And then you are going to see a lot of these more individualized instruction learning applications. So how can teachers take advantage of some of these learning applications? Both of my boys do Lexia after school, which is very, very common for learning and being able to comprehend and manage comprehension and all of that. So you have to remember that that's also going to be where it's not even a teacher there, but an application or game-based application that will really help combat some of that learning loss. And here's again some of those common spending categories. HVAC, I mean, yeah, that's probably going to be very common. Student mobile devices, I think we've seen a lot, right, Josh, with the ECF funding.
Huge. It's been absolutely a huge driver in what we're doing at Trafera.
Yep. Student assessments. So these are back, right? And how are we going to know where the student falls if we can't kind of get a baseline of where they're at? So student assessments, although painful, are a very helpful tool, not to tell you how far behind a child is, but to help them get back to a path that gets them caught up and back to where they need to be. Also, it helps address what type of learning applications or at what level of learning applications they need to be distributed as well or have access to. Math and ELA, that's huge. I'm in Texas. ELA is a big thing right now. And then social emotional learning. These all really add up. I was at COSIN last week. Those really add up to the same types of trends that everyone's talking about. And then the spending categories comes back to that tutoring, virtual online platforms. Transportation's a big one right now, and COVID mitigation. But two of the top spending categories are really going to be, again, that tutoring and how do you make the proper decision, not only for yourself, not only for the students, but for the teachers as well. All right, so this is an interesting one. Josh, I'm going to let you kind of review the key investment areas. And then I think there's also a poll that we were going to pop up too.
Yeah, Kate, if you want to go ahead and toss up that poll, we can look at this together. But what we're asking you guys to do is just take a look at these 4 investment areas and give us some feedback. If you were the boss for a day, where would you invest your money right now? And all 4 of these are pretty compelling, right? I mean, I would think that there's probably a lot of us that would want to put money into each of these, but if you had to choose one, where would you sink your dollars? I can speak to a couple of these. I'm watching the polls as they're coming in. Kate, are you seeing the numbers come in?
I'm seeing them.
Okay, I can't see them. No, that's fine. I just want to talk over it. You can let me know when to shut up. But I know that, number 2 is a big one for us over here at Trafera. We're investing a lot in social emotional learning. We're writing, we have a little children's book that we wrote for that has really, really great tech integration that comes along with it. More stuff for professional development for educators. We always say here that people are more important than things. You can have all of the technology in the world, but if you haven't made an investment in number 4, if you haven't invested in your people, good luck trying to create an instructional shift out of that.
I like that. Number 4, the professional development for educators.
Yep.
I don't think I heard more often. And Julia was with me and she's on the call today too at Coast. And they were like, you saved our professional development program.
Yeah.
And I was like, who? Logitech? That's so crazy. Like, yeah, we had not only the technology to help still execute it with your video collaboration solutions, but they could actually hear things with headsets and they could be part of it with your webcams. And it worked for us. And it was absolutely by far one of the best investments that we made. So it was really nice to hear that those webcams and all those conference cameras were only in the classroom at that time, but also helping teachers with professional development and really growing there as well.
Can you share the poll results? I'm
going to end it. Anybody else want to get their last second in? 3, 2, 1. And oh, they got it in. 2 more. All right. So I'm going to share those.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you've
seen it. That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. That PD is just such a huge investment right now. Yeah, and social emotional learning.
There's so much unknown that the teachers are dealing with, and there's a lot of students coming back with just, maybe it's social anxiety. They were not at school, or if they were at school, it was for a short amount of times, and then putting and being ingrained back into, there's so much development that teachers are going to need to have to go through. So professional development is absolutely key for anything. All right, did it stop sharing?
Yes.
Awesome. I did it. Kate would be so proud. So over 80% of students felt more confident with their performance using learning apps with a Logitech headset. So I think we bring this up because it is very important that the students have the ability to focus and feel comfortable and feel secure while they're taking these type of tests or doing these type of applications. And there's multiple reasons that they feel this way. One is just because they get to focus on the application or the tutoring. There's a lot of background noise out there. Now, today in my house, it's rather quiet. I'm very happy about this. But if this was 3 o'clock and my kids were home from school, I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of background noise. So one of the things that really helps my kids, as well as a lot of the students out there, is having a headset so that they can cut out the distraction, the background noise, what their peers are doing next to them. They need to concentrate on themselves, not what Susie and Johnny are doing next to them. Maybe they're at a different level, or maybe they're at a different area, and having that closed off and not being necessarily blasted to their classroom is something that does take a very high priority for me and a lot of teachers as well. If they're in an individual track, let's keep that kid in that individual track and not make it a classroom announcement. But that's always been super helpful. What do you think, Josh? What's your favorite?
I just was reading that funny comment that someone put in, is like, sometimes if you taught in a classroom like mine, I taught mostly freshmen. It was loud. And then someone was putting in a comment in the chat saying, sometimes just having a headset to tune out the noise from the class next door sounds like they're teaching with Mr. Rabbit probably next door. But yeah, it can be. Schools are noisy, and that's the way it's supposed to be. The days of us sitting in nice, neat, clean rows and everybody just, setting up nice. We're past that. Pedagogically, we're past that, isn't it? Schools are supposed to be noisy. And so with that, if some class next door is doing up and having a big activity in STEM, but then you need to have some focused time, how do we harmonize those two extremes? So having a Logitech device, or something like this, where kids can go into their headphones and they can zone in, they can focus, even with the craziness that's happening next door. I think, it's so important. It
is so important. That actually transitions to the other thing that, we laugh because PC speakers, it's so funny. They're basically the stepchild of Logitech at this point. We're like, oh yeah, don't forget the PC speakers. But I cannot walk into a classroom that doesn't have Logitech PC speakers in them, because it allows every student to hear the content, not just the ones in the front. When you have the ability to share the content so everyone can hear it and it can go over the classroom noise in the other classrooms, it does give those students the availability to be, to hear, because you always want to make them sure they can see and they can hear clearly. We actually have a microphone on here. One of my favorite things to talk about that I'm not going to take too much time to talk about this time is always content creation and how teachers are becoming, I always joke and say that the next influencers, because they already are the influencers, right? But teachers are creating so much content. You guys have probably seen it in your schools and in your districts. They have to break through. They have to figure out how to develop a message so that not only are they being heard, but it's being retained. Holy moly, there's a whole new concept around that, right? Being heard is one thing, retaining the information is something completely different. So this does give the ability for teachers to create the content that they can then distribute or load into the Google Classroom or the Teams room or whatever they're using. And also it helps students learn. It also helps the parents learn the content too. So I'm going through multiple things right now where my son's doing social study projects and it's like, oh, mom, we have to learn all about, Nate put in historical figure here. And I'm like, oh, great. Did she record anything for you? Hoping and praying that she did so that I could watch it with him and learn it as well. So the audio tools really do help it be heard and hopefully retained a little bit clearer. Oh, I did see a note in here. It says, my son has ADHD and mild auditory processing disorder. His 4th grade teacher started having him wear headphones regularly, and it made a huge difference in his attention and comprehension. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you can't get any, more validation than that, right? If you can help a student, if you can help any student retain information, help with their any type of auditory processing, that's fantastic. All right, I'm going to let you read this one, Josh.
Research suggests when instructors appear in videos. Oh, yeah. I don't even need to read. I know where this is going. Yeah. So, I'm big on this because it's one thing to when you have a distant learner, if all they're getting is just your voice, I mean, that's great. But if they can see, we miss out on so much with body language and hand gestures and all that kind of thing. I teach with body language quite a bit. So I want that back from my children. So when I can have webcams on the distant for the learners, I prefer that. But I always want my webcam on because, we do this kind of thing as we're communicating. And it's just really important because students are going to pick up on that. They're going to pick up on tone, inflection. They're going to pick up on our eye contact and our body language. And this is true for adults. It's true for children. I was just on a webinar earlier this morning. It was a meeting. It was internal. And I noticed one of our teammates just seemed really disengaged. And I was able to send a quick chat and just say, hey, look, is everything okay? But it's that kind of thing because we are using these types of tools that we're able to have that perception. We do it in the classroom intuitively, right? So as we transition into a virtual setting, having those webcams and the high quality microphones and those kinds of things are so important to allow us that intuitive teacher kind of thing that we do. It gives us that opportunity to do it even when we're at a distance.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I got off track there.
No, perfectly said. And this really does transition into the video solutions perfectly, right? Whether it's professional development, whether it's classroom or in-person tutoring or online tutoring, or my favorite tool that I think it is on here. So we have a camera and it's called a Mevo camera. And you're like, okay, that's cool. But this camera is what I call a triple threat. It can be a webcam, it can record content, or you can live stream this. So think about the community engagement that you can bring in, because one of the things that we've all suffered from over the past 2 years is how to engage your community, how to engage alumni, how to engage, a student school spirit and student camaraderie. Well, Mevo live streams that. So let's say you sold out the performance of a dance recital or a pep rally, but you want to be able to stream it to the community or stream it to the parents and grandparents. Mevo gives you that capability of streaming to YouTube or Facebook or any of those, that now you can not only have that ability, but you can build it into curriculum where now you have this ability to check out a Mevo and create content, or have student sports broadcast, or have morning announcements broadcast. And it's just a really great place from my standpoint to help engage the community, but also shifting over to a way to record to help get children caught up from a learning loss standpoint. Again, recording that content, or it can then be a camera to allow a webcam. So it's online tutoring. You now just 3 birds, 1 stone. So it is a really great tools, and we have multiple others, but I'm a huge advocate of video. To piggyback off of what Josh said, my facial expressions and my ability to show how I'm feeling is built into me. I can't turn it off and I can't stop it. And if I can't have that type of interaction, if I'm tutoring, I know that if I don't understand something, my face goes like this. Okay, well, if my face goes like that, I will now say, okay, maybe I should break this down a little further, Carolyn, so that you're able to comprehend this math problem. It's always math with me, always math. So it does give that personal interaction so that you can easily deploy an online tutoring solution or an online mentoring or online professional development to be able to engage appropriately. I love our video solutions, but I think
I'm just holding my Mevo right here, and I just wanted to point out the way that I use this is it does have the USB-C output in the back, which I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
So when I want to use it as a webcam, I can do that, but it also takes a micro SD card, and there's a battery in here, so I don't have to have power to this thing. I can just turn it on with micro SD, and then I can record to it, or like you were mentioning, I can live stream. A friend of mine's the athletic director at the high school here where I work, and they do their softball games or live stream, and this is their solution for that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And probably other athletics too. I just happen to know about, because we were talking about the softball thing just recently, but they probably do all kinds of stuff with it. And obviously down at the bottom, there's the regular 1/4 inch thread for just a standard tripod, which is cool because you don't see that in a webcam very often.
No, you don't. And it is nice to be able to have that flexibility. We have seen it mounted on fences for softball and baseball. They've been mounted on stages so that if there was a spring concert, they've been the places that they've been mounted. I'm sure people would be thrilled to tell us even further, but it's awesome. And then of course, video collaboration and our whiteboard cameras really do help keep that engagement at a very high level for whatever instance you're looking to use them for. All right, so it says children have less fine motor control, ability to make smaller and more precise movements, particularly under the age of 10. Now, this is absolutely something that as we're exploring, I will tell you that my child, and I don't know if it was a result of COVID or not, but they did not have the fine motor skills going into kindergarten that he should have had. He struggled cutting. He struggled grasping. He, like all of those basic movements that you would think that you would enter kindergarten with, didn't have those. So there was a lot of work that we had to do. And it really helped define this message for me that there is such a huge fine motor skill development all the way to 4th grade almost, where they're learning how to grasp and they're learning how to type and they're doing everything in order to make those next steps of progression forward. So it does really interest me on how we can help facilitate those students and give them the ability to learn and not assume that they have the capability of managing a trackpad or being able to take a very thin stylus and use it or leverage it. So here's just a handful of what we love, right? So our digital stylus are by far one of the most integral pieces as touch screens become such a big opportunity for Chrome. Of course, all iPads have a touch screen. Windows platforms are moving more towards touch screens. So having styluses that specifically work with Chromebooks, like our Logitech, which is the yellow one here. Hold on, let me see if I can do it. Wait, hold on. There it is. There it is. That's Logitech. So she is, yeah, it's a girl, apparently. I don't know. She is a USI stylist, which will work with Chromebooks that are USI, which is the new standard moving forward. And then also our crayon, our Logi crayon, we'll make him a he, I guess. He is proprietary to iPads. So that is a stylus. They're all specifically designed for education, meaning that they're not going to roll off the desk. They are drop tested if they do roll off the desk. They do have quite the bang proof, slobber proof testing that we put them all through. But what this really does is, as we're progressing these students forward at multiple levels, including fine motor skills, this helps them in a digital landscape create their A's and create their B's. Really fun fact about these is that if a teacher has one as well, and you're both working on an iPad and they're struggling creating their B's, that teacher can automatically come up to the iPad or the Chromebook. It will instantaneously pair. They don't have to be like, okay, let me connect the stylus. No, it'll automatically pair, and they can help them and write and show and be part of that experience and part of that overall, like, just curriculum style. So I love the digital styluses. There's been a huge advancement in moving forward and adopting them, especially in kinder all the way to 5th grade, just in order to assist with their handwriting and that mentality. Have you seen anything out there, Josh, right now around the digital styluses?
Yeah, well, not on styluses, but I will tell you, I'm going to make a confession right now that I have been under the assumption for a number of years that a clicker is a clicker, or, a mouse is a mouse, like, come on, like, sometimes I want to roll my eyes, like, come on, are you telling me that? But I guess it's been within the last year or so. I invested in a Logitech mouse, the MX series, that has custom, like, mapping to the software that I'm using, and I was amazed at how much more efficient I was to have just the right mouse for the job. And then I'm sure you're getting ready to talk about it too, but the presentation tools, again, I thought a clicker is a clicker is a clicker. What's the point? It's not necessarily true. Some of these Logitech tools are really game changers. And, like, how do you reinvent a mouse, but Logitech has done that in a very impressive way.
Well, it's also interesting for me, being a parent, again, I have to set that precursor out there, that I got a Chromebook for my child 2 years ago, like almost everybody, I feel. And I was like, oh, just, use the touchpad to go and navigate. Oh my gosh.
Right. You can't do it.
It took the child 15 minutes to figure out the touchpad. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be a challenge. So my now 8-year-old, he always uses a mouse because the fine motor skills do not allow him to use a touchpad. So think about that as well, that a lot of these game-based learning applications that we're using for individualized instruction are used in a timing fashion. So if you're incorporating a timing methodology by that student using a trackpad and their fine motor skills are not as advanced as others, that's going to be holding them back, not necessarily the comprehension. So making sure that as we're rolling out these individualized instruction, that a mouse is included, a keyboard, if needed, is included, a stylus, if needed, is included, to really help those students and the teachers make the most accurate I want to say description, but that's not the right word, the most accurate profile almost of that student's capabilities as they're going through assessment testing, as they're going for these learning applications, as they're really developing and trying to move forward in these game-based or application learning situations. It's funny because it will make a world of difference. You add a mouse to a student that's been using a trackpad, and all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, you actually belong up here. Or maybe it's like, oh, now we know, like, this is also a fine motor skill opportunity for us to get you help with as well. So those type of things, as you guys are really looking into how you're going to execute and develop this for your students, it is very important to keep that in mind as well. Now, The spotlight tool is definitely a fun tool in order to keep engagement. So you guys saw I was constantly using my little spotlight for mouse here. This is a presentation device which has been flying off the shelves in a multitude of school districts. One of the biggest deals was actually through Trafera, so congratulations, because it does help educators keep, and let me be honest, and all faculty and staff, keeps people engaged and helps keep them point attention to certain details, whether it's magnifying, so it can magnify, say, okay, we're going through anatomy and we want you to focus on that part right there. Well, you know, not all of them are going to be the femur bones. There are always going to be smaller bones that we need to worry about. Or it does the laser pointer. This section here is where I want you to focus on, this section here. Or the spotlight capability, which you saw me use with my mouse, is also through this presentation device. It directs attention to the necessary content so that it's retained. It's just another tool in the tool belt in order to help assist teachers every day deliver content in a way that keeps students engaged.
Yeah, I'm now a clicker snob.
Really?
I never thought I would be a clicker snob, but I am. I have the spotlight, and I don't know what it is. I just refuse to use anything else, because once you've used it. The other thing is it does work for the distant audience as well. You know, if you're in a face-to-face audience, having a laser, depending upon if you're on screens, if you're through a projector, there's just a lot of like, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The spotlight tool from Logitech bypasses all that because it's software based, and it's not, you know, it's not a physical laser against the screen. It's a software, right? And so it translates regardless how big the room is, or even if your audience is distant, like Carolyn was just showing, it still functions.
I love it. It does help focus on the necessary points or the tasks at hand. The other one we have on here is actually a keyboard with a built-in mouse track. So if you are familiar with Chromebooks, or if you're familiar with Windows devices or MacBooks, they all have a trackpad. This is a keyboard with a trackpad, and a lot of educators are currently using them to help maneuver through their Promethean boards or any type of interactive flat panel displays that they're using. So that's a really great solution to help them maneuver through so that they can be productive with their days as well. They're not constantly going back and forth. It does keep them focused and able to move around the classroom and help students on the fly without having to keep on going back to their desktop or their laptop or whatever devices that they're using. So productivity tools, A+. Am I right?
You're right. I'm always a big advocate for moving in the room. I still do a lot of training on classroom management. One thing that I tell people is you cannot be tied to your desk. 100%. So, you know, having a tool like this that enables you, even if you're doing whole group instruction, it might be whole group instruction with kind of the centerpiece being your panel or your IFP or your smart board or whatever interactive technology you have. You still need to be mobile. And just use proximity and some of the classic classroom management strategies, and a tool like this is able to help you do that.
I agree. Always nice when we both agree, Josh. All right, so this is really going to lead us closer to the end. We've talked a lot about our products and how they can help and assist with deploying education, either it being individual learning apps, online tutoring, in-person tutoring, what they can help accomplish for students. And, you know, we want to make sure that this isn't our first rodeo, right? Logitech has been around in the education game for over 35 years, but we've really started mindfully creating products in a portfolio of products to help with education, keeping the student in mind, the teacher in mind, even the administrator in mind. I'm going to show you guys one of our newest released products. We want to keep you guys ergonomic as well, ergonomic and friendly. I'm actually using this one, so I have to put it back down now. But this is our new lift. We're going to give you a lift. So cute. Okay, so it is an ergonomic mouse. It does help with the vertical. So if you're at your desk and you're doing a lot of work, it keeps you all nice and ergonomic. But our solutions, as Josh kind of referenced earlier, are super quick and simple to set up. we're not here to make teachers or administrators or students' life more complicated. We're trying to make it as simple and plug and play as possible, so that you're not downloading software in order to figure out a solution, or you're not worried about whether you have the right ports. You're going to have it, right? They're rugged and cleanable. Y'all, those are two things that every person on this call should be behind: rugged and cleanable. We also are very sustainable. I believe on the last call, someone mentioned that we're actually carbon, not neutral, negative. Drew, I might ask you to chime in because you're the one that told me. Are we carbon neutral or negative?
We're carbon neutral. We're on our way to carbon negative. I was
we
actually
go.
joking, but yeah, we're on our way to carbon negative.
You can't tell me these things. I will bring them up and repeat them. So we are sustainable. We are constantly using, recyclable plastic. We are trying to keep ourselves as green, which is also very important for the children's future. And then a 3-year warranty for our Created for Education SKUs. But what is most important to me is that we are compatible across all devices. So if there is a solution you need for Windows, we got it. You need a solution for iPads or MacBooks, we got it. If you need a solution for Chrome, you got it. So we really do develop an entire ecosystem of products to support any type of deployment across your district or school. Got iPads and Kinder, but Chrome and second and third, no problem. You can have one headset deployed to all of them, and it will work across all the devices. So, and with that, we have a fun Logitech demo gear. Drew, I'm going to bring you back on one more time. And so you can tell a little bit about, since you're on here, a little bit about this Logitech demo gear that we're doing through Trafera.
Yeah, so this is a great program we do through Trafera. It's available to all of Trafera's districts that they work with. You basically can scan that QR code, fill out a quick form, and you can choose which Created for Education product you would like to demo. There's even a other, and you can fill in if you have a special request for another product. Please don't ask for a $4,000 video bar, but we'll work with you if you want to demo anything that we offer.
Awesome. Thanks, Drew. So yep, use that QR code. Just hold your handy dandy device up to the screen. It will easily take you to that demo form so you guys can claim whatever solutions you're interested in sampling. Josh, did I forget anything?
No, not that I can think of. I love talking about this, and I'm easily inspired. It doesn't take a whole lot to get me going, but like this kind of stuff is just it. I'm a big believer in it because I use it personally, and I've always thought that my talk track goes the same way every time. I think quality matters. I think you reap what you sow, and I think when we can, as teachers, if we can really put forth our very best effort to have high quality presentation, high quality instructional materials for our students, where we can expect them and we can hold their feet to the fire when they're not meeting that standard of excellence that we've set forth for them. We can hold them accountable to that. I think where we're getting in trouble sometimes as an industry is we don't always practice what we preach. And so Logitech has always been a great tool to help me practice what I preach and try to present with the best quality that I can.
I love it. Well, Logitech is really, hopefully you've learned a lot around how our tools can help not only teachers and administrative and staff, but really understand how the simple tools really can really elevate a child's learning and help them combat any type of learning loss through different methods, whether it's online or in-person tutoring, whether it's individual game or regular based applications. Just adding simple solutions can really elevate how they perform. So it is always a huge pleasure to present with you, Josh. And Drew, thanks for stepping up and sharing all the fun information on the Logitech demos. Kate, was there anything else we needed to do in order to say goodbye and farewell to these wonderful individuals who stuck around this long listening to us talk?
You made it. Everyone here deserves a prize. That's what the demo's for, though, right?
Agreed.
No,
Yeah.
if you haven't taken the exit survey yet, that is really the only thing left to do. Other than that, thanks so much, everyone who showed up. Thank you for our presenters, and we will see you next time. I will send the deck and a recording of this to all the participants
Awesome.
and more information about the demo if you missed the code. So thanks, guys. See you soon.
Great.
Bye,
Thanks,
everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, Caroline. Bye, Drew.
Bye, Josh.
Bye, Julia.
Thanks,
I'll miss
everybody.
you guys. Have fun in Minnesota.
Oh, I will. Yes.
Hi guys, great job.
It was fun. Always fun presenting with Josh.